So Deborah is a professor of management information systems in Florida at the Florida State University. Let's say she's one of these people that make AIS happen, at least the way we Latin Americans see it in AMSIS and other conferences like that. Her main interests are in IT, or let's say areas of expertise are in IT workforce, cognition and learning, technology and change. Today she will be talking to us. We'll be talking about this, the challenges of bridging the gap and discussing the future of our field of information systems. And I'm sure that we are all very curious about Deborah's ideas, because we all have concerns and we all have ideas of where we're going and where we should be going, right? So Deborah, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for being with us.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let me go ahead and I'll share my screen. So thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. My name is Deborah Armstrong. I am from Florida State University. And my theme for the talk today is bridging the gap, right? The future of information systems. Now, I have to put a little disclaimer out here. I tried to use Google Translate. Yeah, if there's any odd language, I apologize. Hopefully I didn't get anything really crazy. So we'll go with that. So a little bit of grace on that one. Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank the conference program committee, the whole conference committee and the program committee for inviting me here today. Obviously, a lot of people have put a lot of work into this conference. And so I understand, having done just a small, our SIG conference, our SIG MIS, just a very small conference a long time ago, I understand how much effort goes into it. So I cannot thank you enough for all the work that you've had to put in to make this so successful. So thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start in and ask, right, bridging the gap. What does that mean to us here now at this point in time? So when we look at bridging a gap, it means we fill in a space, or we fill in the space between two things. We diminish the differences that we have. We find ways across the gap. But why is bridging the gap important? Why do we need to find a way across the gap? And what does it have to do with the future of information systems? Well, I would say as individuals, we hold different perspectives and worldviews. I believe bridging is really about people. It's all about people. And specifically, it's about other people, getting outside of ourselves and bridging or moving toward others. When we have this perspective gap, we need to bridge that to understand one another, to be able to share our knowledge. And for our academic community and global society, we need that to progress as a whole. As academics, we need to explore the equalizing or polarizing role of technologies, digital technologies, and the role that they play in different aspects of contemporary life. From the point of view of our rapidly changing world, as we were just talking before we got started, how we intend to go to conferences and then COVID comes back again, or things, you know, life gets in the way. So we always have that changing world. So people are constantly on their mobile devices, right? Mobile devices. We have technology really everywhere. We have in vehicle, I have a rental car out here in California, and it's got backup cameras and all these other technologies and, you know, AirPlay, and all that good stuff. So social media. So we mustn't forget that whether we're at work or at play, our everyday lives have become deeply entwined with technology. There's that, I don't know about with you all, but we've seen that experience here many times where you see a family or a couple sitting down and at dinner in a restaurant, and they're all sitting there, not talking to each other, just looking at their cell phones. So we are definitely deeply entwined. And to me, it's at this intersection between technology and the human, right, and the human aspects that it's important and where our difficult problems arise. So technology has changed how we perceive and interact with each other. But does technology liberate us from stereotypes and provide us with a more cosmopolitan understanding of each other? Or is it a tool for promoting division? I believe the general trend to this point has been that people have received benefits from technology in terms of healthcare, educational opportunities. We've seen it in social movements and political participation, just to name a few. But where do we go from here? How, as academics, do we bridge that gap moving forward? We bridge the gap, I believe, by stepping into it. We need to produce research that has impact, and not just impact in our academic journals, but impactful research that contributes to society. We can be, and we need to be, the change that we want to see in the world. We can tackle difficult and important problems. And one person may not be able to change the world, but one person can change someone's world. So hopefully somebody recognizes these lovely beaches from some of their home countries. I particularly went out and tried to get something that would be somewhat familiar to you. So I want to tell just a brief story about a starfish. So there once was a little girl, and there was a man walking along the beach, and he walked along the beach every morning. And one day he saw, after a big storm, there was a little girl that was picking up starfish. After the storm, there was tons and tons of starfish on the shore. And the little girl was picking them up, bending down, picking them up, and throwing them back into the ocean. As the girl came closer, the man called out and he said, "Good morning. Can I ask why you're throwing starfish back into the ocean?" And she replied, "Throwing the starfish in the ocean because the tide has washed them up onto the beach and they can't get back in the water by themselves. When the sun gets high and it gets hot, they're going to die unless I can throw them back in the water." And so the man replied, "But there must be 1,000 of these starfish. I'm afraid you won't be able to make much of a difference." The little girl bent down and picked up another starfish, threw it as far as she could into the water. Then she turned and smiled and said, "Made a difference to that one." So once again, we may not be able to solve all the world's problems, but if we want to make our world a better place, we can make a difference. Okay, so along those lines, at my time in academia, I was reflecting on, for this keynote speech, I was reflecting on my time in the academic field. And I'm old enough not to want to admit how long I've been in academia. So we'll just skip on that one. But I've kind of observed 3 behaviors that I believe will help us conduct impactful research as we move forward. Be intentional, do it together, and focus forward. So the first one, I believe, is to be intentional. And what I mean by intentional is to be purposeful, right? As you can see, done on purpose, deliberate. So be purposeful when you're selecting your research projects. I've found that sometimes when I have not been intentional or purposeful, I feel like I'm kind of, again, back to being at sea. I'm picking up projects. There's no real purpose. I don't find myself really focusing in on a specific area. And to me, I find that if I don't reach for impactful research, it doesn't happen. we're busy going about our lives, we're teaching, we're doing our service at our university, we're working on research. But if we don't intentionally look for opportunities to address important problems, especially the difficult ones, they will pass us by as we focus on research that is easy or gets us recognition. When I was just starting out as a researcher, publishing work on gender diversity, equity, and inclusion in the IT field was extremely difficult. The number of times that reviews would say, "So what? How is this IS research? Where's the IT artifact?" Too many times to count, and is very frustrating. But persistence pays off, as over my career, I've managed to publish several articles exploring some gender diversity and women's issues within the IS field. And I see similar challenges today in terms of publishing work on the role of technology in terms of global DEI issues, or politics, or human trafficking, poverty, even, healthcare in developing countries. So we need to be intentional. So I have a paper just coming out with a couple of research colleagues. I'm throwing a little research in here, sorry. And I wanted to talk about it because the model that we have here, this was just an easy slide to put on the picture. But it's basically about first generation college students, which again in the United States is students that their parents didn't go to college. They're the very first person in their family to go to college. And so what we were interested in was, how do we encourage first generation students to select IT majors, technology related careers? And the reason that we did that, it's twofold. One was, of course, to increase the diversity within the IT field, but also from a social justice perspective in terms of our first generation college students are predominantly African American and Latino. And so we wanted to understand and explore how we could accomplish two things within the IT field. And so we did a qualitative study, and we talked to some of my colleagues we collected data at several different universities with differing levels of first generation student populations. And we gathered data, and the final model, this is kind of it in a nutshell. But basically what we found out was, of course, there's positive and negative aspects that different students envision when they think about IT career choice. And I'm kind of I can't help, I'm talk with my hands a lot, so apologize for that. But the expanded social cognitive career theory, that's basically existing theory, right? Outcome expectations, self-efficacy, and interest influence career choice. And what we did is we also looked at different concepts of capital, so technical capital, social capital, that individuals bring with them into that. And so what was interesting that we found were most of the students, whether they were first generation students or what we call continuing generation, right? Their parents had gone to college, the job opportunities and the interest either positively or negatively influence their IT career choice. Only for the what we call generational status, right? So only the first generation students struggled with stereotypes in terms of a negative self-efficacy, and they struggled in terms of a lack of or the negative technical capital and negative social capital. Whereas the continuing generation had the positive technical capital and social capital. So we found some interesting differences just purely in terms of first generation status versus continuing generation status. So also in there, we have a little bit of exploration of, as we can see down there, the moderator. So in terms of looking at not just creating suggestions for first generation versus continuing generation, but we looked even deeper to try to tease it apart. Well, does it matter male or female first generation student? Does it matter if it was an African American female? So we were looking more even deeper, trying to understand kind of the intersectionality. Not as great a result as of yet. We're kind of just, this is what I would call our first step into this area. Oops, sorry. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, I've totally screwed up. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. See?
Go back to it.
Got all excited, touching the screens, all this good stuff. Okay. Let's try to screen share again here.
But we don't want to have them.
I'm sorry?
No, I was saying that it only means that we need 2 or 3 pandemics until we learn how to deal with this knowledge, but we don't want to have the second and the third pandemic. One per generation is more than enough.
I'm sorry, I only heard about half of what you just said.
Oh, never mind, don't worry.
Okay.
Could you find your slides again?
I did. All right, let's try it. Okay, here we go. All right, let's load up those slides. Can you see the slides or just the notes pages?
The slides.
Perfect.
Is it presenting?
Yes, it's presenting.
Wonderful. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, so anyway, so what I was saying in terms of, we take kind of this was our first shot across the bow. It's our very first paper, but hopefully we're going to build on this and move forward with it. So I would say the point I was trying to make with this was, don't shy away from topics because they might be difficult or uncomfortable. When we lean into issues that trouble us or that we have a very strong affinity for, taking the risk is definitely worth the reward. And selecting intentional topics and research colleagues, I think, are key. Which leads me to the next point, which is do it together. So whether you're traveling internationally or you're cleaning the house, 2 is always better than 1, right? Conferences, whether they're virtual, hybrid, or in person, right, provide you the opportunity to build connections with other researchers. And these connections can lead to meaningful partnership with diverse perspectives. Be bold. I would encourage you, be bold and talk with your colleagues, pitch project ideas to others, especially PhD students and junior faculty. I think about, it's kind of like, I have a PhD student that I'm working with right now, but I think of PhD students like we think of puppies and babies. As academics, we love budding scholars. We love PhD students. And I find that that's the perfect time to be bold with others. And when you're looking for colleagues, I would encourage you not to just look to others in the IS field, but to look around your university for possible collaborators. There's collaborators everywhere. I've been blessed to work with a variety of amazing co-authors, and I was fortunate to be part of an all-women interdisciplinary research team that had 2 researchers from the information systems area, 1 from communications, and another one from the public policy area. And while at times it was challenging to conduct the interdisciplinary research, we would have difference of opinion on theories and methods and what counts as theoretical contribution. But I would not forego the experience because of the enrichment to my scholarly and my personal life. For the new lenses, the new ways to view data, all sorts of different methodologies that I've learned, exposure and experience gained with these colleagues. This collaborative group was responsible for over 10 publications that I have over 7 years that we worked together. And really the only reason that we stopped working together was 2 of my colleagues retired. They had come to the end of their road, so to speak. So also having a mixture of academic ranks within the team was very wonderful. So I was an assistant professor when we first started. I had 1 colleague that was an associate professor and then the 2 full professors. So it provided lots of opportunities for growth and mentoring and continual learning. In fact, to this day, I continue to work with Cindy Remenschneider. She's one of the faculty members that was on the team. And we've been working together for over 20 years now. So it's been awesome. So I can't say enough positive things about teamwork. And what I learned through this experience is that, you and your neighbor are inherently different. Accept and respect your differences, even if you don't understand them. Because as you spend time together, the understanding will come. And it allows you to expand your thinking, work collaboratively, and explore all sorts of possibilities. We came up with ideas that I never would have even dreamed of as research possibilities. And to me, collaboration is not just about publications also. It's about exploring and developing ideas and as individuals. So be intentional when you select your colleagues and work with individuals that empower you and mentor you and provide a positive work environment for your collaboration. Because to me, conducting research is difficult enough. You don't want to surround yourself with folks that make it even harder. You want to make it a win-win as much as you possibly can. And then when you're in a position to develop others, right? Develop ideas, relationships, and possibilities with them. All right, my third point is to focus forward. So there's a reason that when you look at an automobile, your windshield is significantly bigger than your rear window, right? When you focus forward, you're committing to progress. Commitment and perseverance are keys to success and keys to progress. We have a saying in the United States, and I'm probably have something similar, right? What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So I believe that applies not only to individuals, but also to papers. It applies to research. Even if a paper is rejected at more than one journal, you take that feedback from the reviewers, you modify the paper to address what you can, and you submit it to another journal. My philosophy has always been every paper has a home. You just have to keep searching until you find it. And sometimes that search can be very long and pretty darn humbling. I've had 3 articles published in MIS Quarterly. I've been lucky enough to have those. And each one of those papers took about 5 years just in the review process, right? So we're talking about all the time that I spent before working on it, from the day that I submitted it until the day that it got accepted, every single one of them. So it is a long road. Okay, but you just don't give up. So I'm not brilliant. I'm not special. I'm just persistent. I just don't give up. And I found that some of my best work, in my opinion, again, probably not in reviewers or readers' opinions, but in my opinion, the best stuff has been the most difficult to publish. I believe that's because what our journals claim to want and what they're willing to accept are not always the same thing. New and provocative research ideas can be difficult to understand or be uncomfortable to accept. But keep pushing, keep sending it out. And as I said, every paper has a home, you just have to find it. And once you find a home for that first piece, you can build on it. That first one might not be in the stellar journal that you wanted it to be, but maybe that second paper will be, or that third paper, right? If you continue to study in that area, you build it. And just like you're putting a puzzle together, each piece that you add makes the message clearer. You can build that impact over time. Now, we recognize that both culturally and geographically, international scholars tend to have many more obstacles than Western scholars in terms of their publishing efforts and taking on leadership roles within the IS community. To me, this is why conferences like this are so important, to start developing those relationships. In addition, I encourage you to take advantage of all the resources provided by the AIS membership, such as, I think, the listserv. I try to get all of my PhD students to sign up for the AIS listserv as soon as they start with us. Because to me, that keeps you in the know of what's going on. What's the current conversations? Are there any calls for papers coming up? What conferences are going on? Sometimes I'll even see calls for paper from journals that I didn't even know about. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. And I'll go and look and then end up sending something off to a journal that I was unaware of even existed. So it's very good, I think, for that. Also, they started during, or at least I became aware of some of the research talks that they do, the webinars and the research exchange talks that they have out in the AIS electronic library. And I started watching some of those when we were in the throes of the pandemic, and I find those very helpful. And once again, I've gone back to them since and sent PhD students out there as well. And then finally, one of my favorite resources that I would encourage is the AIS Women's Network, which I believe we had some folks before we got started that might be familiar with that. So the Women's Network is a wonderful opportunity to find mentorship and scholarship and research activities for everyone across the globe, wherever your status, whether you're a PhD student, assistant, associate, full. So along those lines, it's interesting. In addition to this hybrid, right, this virtual workshop, I just attended a hybrid workshop that was sponsored by another conference. My co-author that we're working on a paper, Sam Zaza, who is the new or incoming AIS Women's Network president, and we have a paper that's been rejected from, I want to say it's either 3 or 4 journals. I lost track, but we believe it's a really good idea. It's kind of one of those, again, persistence. We think it's a good idea, but we just couldn't see our way clear after the last rejection. It's like we couldn't get from what the reviewers were telling us to, okay, so how do we fix it? How do we improve it? So Sam attended the conference in person, and I came in online, and it was wonderful because the mentor, there was a senior scholar, which just happened to be Andrew Burton Jones, who is the editor-in-chief, the current editor-in-chief of MISQ, happened to be the one that provided the feedback for us. And he was able to give us some really useful suggestions in terms of how to move the project forward. Again, not easy suggestions, but at least it was some idea for how to more clearly communicate what we were trying to say. So that it's kind of, it was very nice because it re-energized us. So bottom line, persist, even in the face of adversity and setbacks, which we all have. You need to focus forward and keep moving toward that goal. Okay, I'd like to leave us with one final thought. So if we fall, we will fall together. And when we rise, we will rise together. And together, we're bolder and braver and stronger. So, obrigada, gracias, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Well, guys, questions, ideas? I know that Indira already has her hands up. Yeah, yeah, lots of hands up. Go on, Indira.
That was clapping. Very good.
Oh,
yeah. But I can ask a question, sure. Sure. I just like it very much. The advice, really appreciate it. And I would like to hear if you could please tell us a little bit more about what do you think we should do to promote collaboration among researchers in Latin America with researchers in the US, for example, or in any English speaking? Because I think one of the problems is that there are, as you can see, the English and Spanish, those are the languages, but most of the academic journals publish in English, and it would be nice to promote that kind of collaboration, that having the data, the ideas and in Latin America, but then publish in English. So what are your thoughts about that?
Okay, great question. Well, and as a matter of fact, it's interesting because that workshop that I literally just attended probably 2 days ago, I think would be a fabulous model in terms of working with the workshop, what they did is everyone that was interested in it sent in their papers. And so the workshops, there was about 3 papers at a table. So Andrew had 3 papers that he was in essence mentoring around roughly the same topics. And so all of us also read each other's papers. So not only did you get feedback from a senior scholar who's right as editor-in-chief has all the very good in terms of this can get published, who are you thinking for a senior editor? So to me, that might be something that, and I see we have, you know, panel sessions and things like that, but even a smaller, almost more intimate workshops where we could perhaps have some senior scholars like an Andrew Burton Jones, and then some, I would say normal folks, right? Like me, you know, our SIG MIS folks, right? That type of thing, and have them mentor and work with faculty, students, whoever was interested in the topics, right? So same thing in terms of workshops, and where we could come together on topics and build your network, not just with the senior scholars, right? But with the folks, all the folks at the table. And so both within Latin America and the United States. So we could, you know, even have both.
I like
Sorry.
that.
I got excited. Sorry.
Yes, me too. Great idea.
No, I think that cross collaboration, and also in terms of, and not just a presentation format, but much more interactive.
Exactly, the workshop kind of like what you were saying, you know, being more intentional towards publishing.
More intentional, right? So we're all in this together. We come together, you know, there are 4 of us or whatever, and we're all around a similar topic. And so because I'm familiar with the topic, Indira, that you're working on, I can give you meaningful feedback, right? And vice versa. We can help each other move our papers along and come together in terms of, well, hey, what about if we combine this idea and we did another paper, you know, moving forward. So
thank you.
I like that idea. Okay, we'll add that to the to-do list for next year, right?
Yeah.
Now, you know, Deborah, one thing that just occurred to me is that we usually, in fact, this is a problem that we Latin Americans have being accepted in journals that have English as their language. That's definitely already a huge barrier for any of us, right?
Right.
Regardless of how good we think we speak English, it's always a second language. It's noticed as a second language by reviewers and by editors, and they always, I mean, before they focus on the content, they are already you know, disturbed by the format, which is understandable. I keep telling my students, if it's not written in a language that I understand easily, I will lose track of what they're doing. So that's I think an important strategy for us when trying to publish in US or in English, to partner with someone from you know, from one of those countries. But one thing that I never had seen as a value is the perspective that we can bring to those papers. It's not, you know, recently I was working together with Fred Niederman on a paper, and he was saying, you know, the perspective of you in Latin America show us and make us think of a problem in ways that we would not think. And
exactly.
So I think we can make a richer proposition for everyone if we include those different perspectives, although we have the challenge of the language.
No, I think that's a great point. There was a special issue, I can't remember the details, again, I'm getting old, on what they refer to as indigenous theory. And it's very much so in terms of, because, and it's the same thing when we're talking about like first generation students and continuing generation, the context matters, right? What those students bring to the table, completely different. I think it's the same in terms of a lot of Latin America globally, right? In terms of different perspectives that you can bring. And yeah, it's very much, I work like I said, with Sam Zaza, who's originally, she's Lebanese. So she's from Lebanon, and I work with Iris Junghaus, and she's German. And so when the three of us get together, once again, it's a very interesting collaboration.
It challenges the other perspectives, right? And
Exactly.
everyone has to think differently. Yeah.
Right. Well, and you even have, it's not even necessarily just language and background, but even our educational systems are different. And so, like, I find it's kind of funny. We always turn and look at Iris, who's from the more German tradition, more the philosophy and the theory. So she's very strong in that area. So we usually defer to her when we're talking about things and we have a disagreement. It's like, well, I think it's this, but I'm going to trust her way more than I'll trust myself. Wonderful.
People just jump in. Otherwise, we'll be Indira, Deborah, and I will keep talking here because I have other questions. Ayana, do you have any questions there?
No, I just wanted to add, and thank you, Deborah, for your presentation and your talk. I started listening on my phone as I logged out of my office, and I feel ashamed for that. But,
oh no, it happens to all of us.
Yeah, I guess.
Car, office, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add an idea to what Indira was asking, and you were also giving some additional thoughts. When I came back from my PhD in Arizona and coming back to Latin America, I was thinking there are many things actually in Latin America that we can do cheaper than in the US, Canada, Europe, like, for example, programming. And I remember I had to hire programmers while I was doing my PhD. Well, actually, it wasn't me, it was my advisor, because I had no money. So my advisor was hiring and trying to find grants and money to be able to do the research that we were working on. And I figure if I could hire somebody from Latin America, it would cost like, I don't know, 1/4 or maybe even less. And even if we pay more, the people down here will be so happy because they will get a raise. And you know, so actually that's another idea that I'm just talking about programming, but there are many other things that sometimes we need in research that could be we call that maquila, you know, like, yeah, we send overseas to do some work, and actually, yeah, I do understand there is not really many people in Latin America or in other parts of the world that will have all the skills, but there are some, and actually some of them are very good, very, very good. So somehow that's what I try to do, working with some of my friends, colleagues, professors from when I did my PhD in Arizona. So I don't know what you think about that. It's not about exploiting the cheaper labor, but it's about actually giving more opportunity. And sometimes actually, you actually make them think about doing graduate studies, even a doctoral program, because this is actually very intelligent. But we will talk about that a little bit more later in the panel. So
I'm looking forward to the panel, actually. I'm looking forward to that very much. Yes. Well, and I think that's a great point, actually, in terms of, and I understand your perspective in terms of you know, us coming there, right, and bringing into the culture, I think it would be very helpful.
You talked a lot about behavior and commitment and how we should proceed in the future.
You have to go closer to the microphone, Alexander, because you're breaking up. You're breaking up.
All right,
I thought it was just me.
Oh, sorry. I thought, yeah. So it may be my mic is it better now?
It's perfect.
Okay. Right. No, what I was going to say here is, I mean, you talked a lot about, you know, the behavior, how we should proceed with our research in the future and everything. And I was thinking here also about the topics, because for a long time we were concerned about what happened in the industry. And IS was all about solving issues for the industry. It seems that the industry is able to do it by itself now and doesn't depend on us as much, but society does. You see a shift, and when you started, I felt that you were going that way. The shift towards different things, toward different topics that we should research, because there we can find ways of being even more relevant than we've been in business. And again, if we do that, how do we manage that, considering that most of us are, in business schools? Or
right, exactly, right. I know that's a challenge, because again, and I have to admit, right, I'm biased. I come from that background. I am more, I would say, socially oriented than business oriented. And so for me, and I've studied, a lot of in the business environment, but I've always been interested in people more so than technology and how people interact with technology. So to be honest, it's been a struggle over the years for me, when they ask for, the practical implications for organizations, has always been my difficulty when I'm writing the implications, is because I'm more concerned about the individuals and the people that are involved. I would say, I don't know that there's again, purely my opinion, I don't know that there's per se a complete shift from businesses to society. I think society has provided us more opportunities that are, again, for example, with social media, it's like it's everywhere. And so the opportunities and the issues are right there in front of us, as opposed to, I think, in previous years, it hasn't been as, or at least I haven't been as easily aware of what's going on, both for me in the US and worldwide. So some of the issues that we're facing. And so, I don't know, what do some other people think? This is the interactive part. Do other people have thoughts on that? Do you see the shift? I see that we're still looking. I mean, to me, I think about artificial intelligence, and again, I'm all excited about that from an individual perspective, right? Not necessarily what can AI do, but what can AI and people do together? So when even those ideas, I think about it from a people side. So I'm definitely biased. All right. Do we have any PhD students in the crowd? What are they researching?
Yeah, we do. Raise your hands, the PhD students.
Yeah, raise your hand. What are you going to dissertate on?
You can raise your hands, even if you don't have your camera on. You can raise your hands with reactions down there, I guess. Just as if you had a question.
Yeah.
No, Alfred is not a PhD student any longer, is he? He's finished it.
I still am, so I'm ABD.
Oh, you still are?
Yeah, ABD.
Congratulations on being ABD. Nice hurdle to overcome.
One step at a time.
That's exactly right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Now we have to come up with dissertation topics, right? Ooh,
data breaches emanating from secure IT and OT environments.
Okay.
Hafsa is also saying that there's a dissertation on the way. So we did some statistics of the people that are in this conference. We had 169 people registered this morning. Okay. We had some 60. We were impressed because we had 60 professors. And then we had most of the others were doctoral students and a lot of master students as well.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I know that we even have here in the group, in the crowd here, we have some undergraduate students. They usually do here in Brazil, they do what we call a scientific initiation. And then they develop a project at the end of the course. And some of them are presenting what we call a 5-minute video on their research.
Right. Oh, I saw that.
They will be doing that tomorrow, yeah.
Oh, that'll be
So there are even some
wonderful.
undergrads here. I noticed that I see 1 or 2 names here of undergrads as well. So
Oh,
the whole
that's
spectrum.
wonderful.
We have the whole spectrum here.
Well, hopefully I
right.
didn't scare them away.
No, maybe they're being
Okay.
challenged by the English.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're quieter because, in fact, what we do with the undergrads, they present their videos in their language, Portuguese or
Mhm.
Spanish,
Mhm.
and then we ask them, write subtitles of what you did in your language, and then other people can, and then we had it translated to English and to the other language. So their videos are all in Portuguese, Spanish, and English.
Wow. That's wonderful. That's very
So,
exciting.
Maud also mentioning his dissertation there. So lots of people there. All right. Any other questions, guys?
Wow. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited. You guys are doing great work, it sounds like. I'm very excited to see.
I
Go on, Indira.
No, I just wanted to say that also. I wanted to hear your thoughts about our journal. You know, we have a journal. It's called Relcasi, Revista Latinoamericana, and it's an AIS journal. And we're trying to promote it because it's still a baby, you know, because it started and it kind of had some bumps, so it went kind of down. You know, we had the issues with the DOIs and publishing, but we got this teamwork, and I'm just very happy with all the work that we've done as a group. So the journal is being revitalized and fixing all the DOIs, and it's already there. But what do you think we could do to promote the journal? I mean, it accepts research in Spanish, in English, and Portuguese, and it's of course the research can be about anything, if in Spanish and English, or if it's in Spanish or Portuguese, but if it's in English, should be about Latin America. So what are your thoughts? Because we really want to promote that journal, and we're happy that again it's in the AIS library. So that's plus.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I think again, to me, how you work up the journal is you talk about it just like this, right? So you make everyone aware of it. You might publish something on, to me, the AIS listserv, to mention like an upcoming, I don't know if you notice how some of them they'll publish.
Yeah, and every time the issue is out.
Forthcoming table of contents, right, on a regular basis. I think also in terms of collaborating with some some more famous, bigger scholars, if possible, to bring some name gravitas, maybe invite some like a Fred Niederman type of thing, or somebody. Fred's always got something to say about something, so
yes.
Right, I mean, yeah, he's great. Well, and everybody knows Fred, right? So it's kind of one of those that would be a wonderful way to bring it forward. But same thing again, I think in the workshops, a lot of times, like with this, in terms of best papers going on to the journal, like I saw. Right, I saw that. Yeah. So
what you have to do, fast track them and Sam's paper. They say, well, if you get rejected one more time and you forget about counting the number of times your paper was rejected, send it to Relcasi, and Indira is going to give you a fast track.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great brainstorming. Thank you, Deb.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much, Deborah. If we change rooms here, we'll have our panel is going to be in a different Zoom meeting.
I saw that.
In some 5 minutes from now. So I just ask everyone else to give, and maybe we should take a picture. Now, again, I know that some people do not have a camera, but for those who have a camera, I promise that we'll not be calling your name so that you say anything. Just show your face so that we take a picture here with Deborah. Thank you very much, Deborah. Who's taking the picture? Okay. Thank you very much, Deborah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all
very much,
for being
Deborah.
here. That was wonderful. Thank you.